Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Friends. This is episode number 18. Maybe it's 19 even. I think it might be 19. Dawn can't count. Everyone should know that. If you've known me for a minute, you know Dawn can't count. Dawn doesn't keep track. If you don't know me, I'm Dawn Scannell. I help women bounce back and bloom by building their resilience muscle through mindfulness, self-love, personal wellness, and defining their sacred support circle. Because really, life happens. Bounce back and bloom, baby. So I am here today with Julie. I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name.
Oh, it's a good story because it goes right into my business.
Okay,
TakAct,
Takac,
take act,
like tic tac, only Takac,
like take action.
like take action. I love that. I love that so much. So we have Julie here today, and she is a health coach, but she has a really interesting story about how she came to this place in her life and what it means to her. So Julie, take it away, please.
Oh, thanks so much, Dawn. What an honor to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me here today and to have this conversation. I do kind of feel like we're at a coffee shop and we're sitting in as girlfriends and getting a chance to know each other. So thanks for that. So again, my name is Julie Takac. The Take Action is my business name, and that is a big thanks to my husband. We got married back in 2002, and at the time, I was working for the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. It's in Washington, D.C., and I was doing international relations work for the museum. And I actually kept my maiden name, which is Hawk, because I worked with people all throughout the world. And they had a hard enough time keeping track of me. So for me to change my name halfway through wasn't going to work. So I stayed as Hawk until I changed careers, and I'll get into that in a minute. So you want to hear some more of my background? How should we? How do you?
Yeah, like the whole Holocaust Museum thing, I find that completely fascinating and brilliant. And I wish I could have been on your shoulder while you did that work because it's endless fascinating to me, the whole thing. Like my great grandmother's family immigrated right before World War II from Germany. They were Jewish. And that is a story in itself. The story of my great grandma Nelson, man, was she a resilient woman.
Oh,
Um, but so I've always been, well, I'm fascinated by people anyway and humanity. So please do tell us more about how did you come into that?
you got it. And it starts with college. So I went to a small Jesuit college in Syracuse called Lemoyne, and thought that I would be going to, my intention was to eventually go to law school and become a human rights lawyer. And that all changed in my sophomore year when I took a course called Hitler's Germany by Dr. John Langdon. And that absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. I could not let the history go. I had learned a little bit about the Holocaust in high school, the typical, just the surface stuff. So really didn't know much about it, but was just absolutely fascinated by this history and knew that that was where I belonged. So it turned into, I took some more courses on the Holocaust, some literature courses. I did some independent study. I interviewed some Holocaust survivors. I was lucky enough to actually connect with an organization here locally, because this is where I grew up, and interviewed some survivors, did some projects, and then decided to go to graduate school to pursue my master's in modern European history with a focus on the Holocaust. Now, during college, I was very fortunate to be able to do an internship at the Holocaust Museum. It had only been open for 3 years. And the institution is just, it's undescribable. It's, if you haven't been there, I absolutely encourage you to go. And even if you can't get there in person, go to their website, because they just have so much great information. And the museum is more than just a museum. It's a memorial, it's an education center. Their outreach, their programming is just so remarkable. So I went to graduate school in Washington, D.C., went to American University, was able to do yet another internship at the Holocaust Museum, this time in oral history department. And then I did some consulting work, kind of very, very part-time, right after I finished my master's degree. And then a few months later was offered a full-time position at the museum doing international relations work. It was a brand new position. It was very heady. I was, 24 years old, and, I was working with people around the country, around the world.
I
Um,
can I just interject just 1 second? I'm sorry, but I just want to capture the fact that as a young woman, right? You like just grabbed that opportunity, right? And that calling you had
yeah.
to this, and you just wrapped yourself completely around it and wrote it for all it's worth. So you were there basically almost from like the conception
Yeah.
of that museum.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It was so
is
cool to be part of that so early on and to watch its growth. And I left, I'll get to that in a minute, but I left in 2013. So, 20 years after its opening, I watched the growth of a very baby organization grow into this, this institution that has impact not only in the United States around the world, but, with governments, with governmental policy. It's fascinating.
Mhm.
And I just thank my lucky stars. I used that word with you earlier, mission. It was a mission for me, and it was a calling. I felt very called to that history. I don't have any personal family experience with that. My family background is German. I think our family came to the United States back in the 1800s, so there really wasn't any personal connection to it. It was the human connection. I just could not
Love
fathom
that.
the fact that people allowed this to happen. It wasn't even the perpetrators that upset me as much as it was the bystanders.
Right? Isn't
Mm.
that fascinating? Because
Yeah.
I've been looking into that a lot lately, and I'm not going to get political, but I've been looking at that a lot lately and seeking out all the documentaries, all the books and stuff online to read like how does this happen? How do people go from being normal, decent human beings to and they're still normal, decent human beings but somehow have allowed something like that to happen to their next door neighbors and even play parts in it just just to save themselves. Like we can wrap my head around the humanity of that, but I keep trying to put myself in their place, wondering, "What would I do?"
But Dawn, think about where we are this past year. Okay. Now, I think this is the closest that I personally have ever come to experiencing what it may have felt like to live in Germany in that time period. Because here we have a virus that is out there, right? And it is impacting, when it first started last year, we had no idea how deadly it could be. We had no idea how it was going to spread. We all hunkered down. Look at the toilet paper aisles, look at
I
the paper towel aisles, right? I mean, we were hoarders, right? And it was very interesting because this was the opportunity for me to say, okay, who am I going to be? Who am I going to show up as? So here's what I did. I actually hoarded the toilet paper so I could give it away to people. That was what I was
oh,
like, okay, I'm going to have some. I'm going to make sure I have some, but I know that I'm going to make the right decision. So I would donate it to other people. But anyway, I digress.
awesome.
But that's the thing. I mean, that was such a, Nazi Germany was just such a, it's hard again to fathom, right? But there are components of it that we live through in our own society. And I think that that is where the lesson is. And that's the brilliance of the museum. I mean, they work with, federal judges. They have a program for diplomats. They have a program for police officers and for teachers and for, all kinds of leaders. And that's the point. We don't live in Nazi Germany, but there is a fine line, and we have to walk that. We have to watch that fine line and really be aware of it. More than anything, it's being aware of it.
Right, right. So I'm just completely fascinated and would love to have more conversations about all of this with you, but let's stick to topic today because that's not where you are today. So what happened? What was the transition point for you? What happened in your life?
So I met my husband, and we got married in Washington, D.C., and we decided that it was time to start a family. And we did not want to raise a family in Washington. I grew up in this area. I grew up in Latham, and I wanted to come back home to start a family. So we moved to Ballston Spa. Love this community. And what I was able to do, though, because I was not ready to leave the Holocaust Museum. Now, this was in 2005 when we moved, and I officially started working for the museum in 2000. Um, so in 2005, I went to the powers that be at the museum and said, listen, we're moving and I would like to continue to work for you. Now, at that point, I had moved into development. So I was doing some fundraising, I was doing a lot of fundraising in the Southwest. That was my region, as well as New England. Don't ask me how that happened, but those were two regions that really were not covered. And so they had me kind of plug the holes. But I wasn't really doing much in New England. So I went to my bosses and I said, listen, why don't we hire somebody to really focus specifically on the Southwest region? Let me handle New England. Instead of flying to where I need to go, I'll work out of my home and I'll drive. So my territory was upstate New York and all of New England. So I did a lot of work mostly in Boston, the Berkshires, Hartford, a little bit of Rhode Island, and Rochester, New York was a big community for us as well. So I started doing that, really focusing on that in 2005. I had my son in 2006 and my daughter in 2009. And everything was going according to plan. I was living the dream. I had, was able to live out the mission that I felt was laid out for me. I was, fulfilling the calling that I felt was part of who I was. And I was raising a family and really loving it. Things started to change, however, when my job required me to do more and more travel. So I would have to leave my house on Tuesday mornings every week, Tuesday mornings, and I wouldn't get home until Thursday night. So I was living out of hotel rooms and I was living out of my car. My husband was a single dad during the weeknights, and we had a nanny raising our children. So there was a very pivotal thing that happened one summer afternoon in 2011. And is it okay if I share it? Because this is the turning point for me.
Sure, please.
So it was a Friday afternoon, and my daughter Ella was outside with the nanny playing. I think my son probably was on a little play date, and I was talking with my neighbors, and we were out in the driveway, and my nanny and my daughter were there, and we're just chatting, and I see my daughter in front of me. Okay, now the nanny is behind me, and her name is Julie as well. She's just a phenomenal human being. I'm so glad to have her in my life. She still is, as a friend. And so she was behind me, and Ella fell down. Okay, so now she's about 2 years old. And as any 2-year-old would do when they fall down, they pick themselves back up, but then the tears start, right? Okay, so now it's my turn. Now I'm going to bend down, and this is what I do. I bend down and open my arms because she starts running towards me. And I'm there ready to pick her up and comfort her. Only she didn't run into my arms. She ran into the nanny's.
She ran past you.
And past me to the nanny's arms. I've told that story several times, and every time I tell it, I still get that lump in my throat.
I will bet you.
And I remember in that moment laughing it off, and really brushing it off to the neighbor that I was talking to, like, oh, isn't that sweet? It's so great that, Ella loves Julie so much. But no, that was really rough. And it was at that moment that I decided, as much I loved the mission of the museum, and as important and critical that the museum is to this world, it was no longer serving me and my family. And in fact, it was hurting my family. So I had to make a change. So I started searching. And I knew that I wanted to go into business for myself. I knew that I wanted to be in service, and that I had to be mission-based. That was very important to me. I also really wanted flexibility. I wanted to be the one raising my children. So ideally to be able to work from home or really work from anywhere was what I wanted to do. And that is when I found health coaching. And I started really coaching in the beginning of 2012. and fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. And then decided that this was what I was going to do. So I took about a year, built my business over the course of 2012, and gave notice in October of 2012. And I said, listen, I'll stay on until January if you need me to. I know you need to replace me. I'll be happy to stay on. And they said, great, but actually, could you stay on until May of 2013? Because it's our 20th anniversary and we need help. In terms of they didn't have time to find my replacement and deal with that. So I did. I stayed on until May of 2013. And I've been doing this ever since full time. And I just love it.
Awesome. That is awesome. I love the story. Thank you for trusting us with a very vulnerable story. I mean, my heart broke just imagining it, right? My son's going to be 32 at the end of the month. I just can't even imagine in that moment. And then in my head, I'm going, oh God, and the neighbors are right there. Like, what do you do? Like, everything's fine. I gotta go now.
Mother of the year right here.
Yeah, high five. Who wants wine? Like, it's like, but in retrospect, right? Like, had that moment not happened, how much longer would it
Right.
have gone on?
Right. And exactly. It was a very painful experience to have to go through. And I went through others, absolutely. And by the way, the transition from leaving the Holocaust Museum and that identity for years, I would say, well, I used to work at the Holocaust Museum, but now I'm a health coach. Right? Because it was such a big part of that was 20 years of my life, truly, between college and the internships and working at the museum. That was who I was. So that, that shift in identity. But, now to be able to, well, when kids were in school full time, get the kids on and off the bus. Now I'm able to be home when they're in hybrid school and be available for them as needed. There's just, it's just really fit all areas of my life.
Right. And I'd love to point out that there's nothing more valid about one or invalid about the other, right? Because I think it's really easy for us, especially as women, right? To like invalidate what we do as not important if it's not wrapped around education, like yours was so tied to your education and everything. The whole trajectory of that was like, I love it so much because how many of us as young women, I will just speak for myself. I'm 59 going on 60. And, I chose to go to college and my mother, left me at college saying, well, perhaps you'll meet a nice boy and get married. So that's what college meant for me to her. Like, oh, you'll meet a different kind of boy and get married, a nice boy. Because if I didn't go to college, I'd stay home and meet a crappy boy, I guess. But for her, you know what I mean? And like, that was very much like, I can quote 3/4 of the quotes on my fellow girls' yearbook quote, their senior quote. I'm going to get married and I'm going to have babies.
Yeah.
Like, even at the time I'm going, really? That's the bar.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so much out there in the world. That's really where we're going.
And
Like,
by the way,
right?
we do have friends, right? We do have women friends that is what they want. I had friends
Correct.
the same way and they are so fulfilled. But the thing is making sure that you're fulfilled, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And again, one is not more valid or invalid than the other. Right? Embrace it fully and stand in your power in it. Right? Don't apologize for being a home mom or whatever. Like you are doing 3 people's work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a working mom and have a family, you're doing 5 people's work. Right? So as a woman, you're never just doing your job.
Right.
We never have one job. So I really love that you went, yours is very extreme and you're very happy.
Yeah. And Dawn, let me share a couple other thoughts if I could, because I think it's really interesting too. I've had time, of course, now to really reflect on this, but so of course I've talked about how important it is that I be mission-based and working for the Holocaust Museum. Of course, it has a huge mission. And what I loved about working in the museum was the impact that I was part of. Now, I worked, starting off in international relations and then with the fundraising department. So, I wasn't in the museum proper watching people go through the museum. Okay. But I felt that I had an impact on the world through the mission of the museum, but it was very top down. What I love and cherish is that as a coach, I have impact as well. Now, it's not on millions and millions and millions of people yet, because I do have a big goal. However, I do have that independent individual. Um, we have one of those too. Individual impact that then I see the ripple effect, right? Because when a client starts to take care of him or herself, and especially herself, right? Women especially, it ripples out. It starts to ripple to the family, ripples to the friends, and so on and so forth. So, it's just it's the bottom up is the impact that I get to have. And it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Right, right. Because if you think about it, that turns that mom into a much different role model for daughters and sons. But as a woman, we have so much thrown at us as we're growing up as to what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to be and show up in the world as women. That's a lot on little girls. And to see again, a woman taking her health back and empowering herself to take
Yes.
care of herself
Yeah.
in a non-negotiable way
Yes.
is
In a
beautiful.
non-apologetic way.
Yes.
In non-apologetic way. And this is what I say. I probably say it.
Sorry, we must be getting a delivery. It's Misfits delivery day, so it's probably
Oh,
FedEx.
that's an exciting day. That's an exciting day. I get it. That he or she, your dog. Oh, he's adorable.
I have two. The other one must be down in the other window.
Oh.
And they are old. They are 15 and 14.
Oh, wow. Boy, he's pretty spry for that age. That's
I
impressive.
have always cooked for them, says the health coach in me.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, that explains it. We have a 2-year-old. I should start doing that as well. Really.
Oh man, yeah. I can hook you up.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you. So let's see what I was saying was
The impact. Right.
women and empowering themselves. So we as women, I heard this, I wish I remembered who the speaker was, but I heard this on a podcast at one point where the speaker was talking about how we use the word selfless. And she said, really? Is that what we want to be? Selfless? Like we're less than? And it got me thinking about how really, and I'm going to be broad here, we don't really ever use the word selfless to describe a man.
No.
I started thinking about this and I started thinking if I were to think of somebody as a man as selfless, I probably would think that person wasn't using their time well. Like they should be more productive or they should do this. Whereas women are, oh, she's so selfless.
Yeah, like it's something to aspire to.
Right, exactly. And then of course we have that word selfish, which doesn't feel very good. And a very good friend of mine said that, and it's a male, and he said, I actually don't use the word selfish. He said, I use the word self-full.
Ooh.
Yes. That's it. Self-full.
I love that. I need to write that down.
We've got to fill ourselves because especially as women, we cannot pour from our cup if we are empty. And so being selfish really means that you're being self-full so that you can serve more.
Correct.
I am such a better mother. Listen, let me tell you, not only was, work getting in the way, but my own health and my own concepts about myself, my self-image and my poor habits and my poor choices, all of those things. And I thought that I was, killing it, but I really wasn't. When I started to take care of myself and focus on myself, and let me tell you, I have failed many a times. And I always tell my clients, there is nothing you can tell me that I haven't done myself. So don't ever think you're going to be judged because I've done it. But when I started to be self full, I was able to see how many more people I could serve, my own family, my own community, my own clients. There's more to it.
I love it. I love it so much. And I love how there are so many ways that we can impact and empower women. And I love like that's my job too. I do too. I do it at a different angle because of my own life experiences and what I have to bring to the table and how I can help. But I just love how many different ways that we can serve other women and empower them and lift them up, because when we do, we impact, like you said, not just them, it's their family, it's the people they work with, it's the people they encounter day to day. People notice those things. I know because I have people stop me or come into my DMs who hear parts of my stories or find out from other people and stop me and ask me about it. And, it always starts with, I want to be like you. Right. And it's like, well, you don't have to go through what I've gone through to be like me. That's the thing. Resilience is really like a power, a muscle, a tool we can massage, we can work it out, and we can become better at it.
Mm. And how
Right.
amazing is it to be able to share that and empower other people through that personal experience?
Right.
That's what makes it authentic. That's what
Correct.
makes it more relatable, right?
Right.
I'm in a safer space knowing that you've struggled. I feel safer and more open and freer to, okay, this is really what's going on with me.
Right. Nobody would take me seriously if I didn't tell you all of my stuff. This is how I got here. Here are my receipts.
Mhm.
Right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm just a person who, I don't know, this is my thing, my shtick. Like,
Mhm.
why would anybody come to me if I haven't walked through some fire myself, if I haven't been stuck in storms that most people don't want to think about, right? But here I am, I'm happy, I'm thriving, I'm doing great, and anybody can learn how to do this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And
know?
not only are you thriving, but now because you're thriving, you're now able to help more women do that themselves. And isn't that
Absolutely.
amazing? Like that's the biggest gift to be able to take what you've done and then help other women do that. And then they become better people. They become
Right.
their best selves
And
and
that is the ripple effect.
exactly.
That is
Yeah.
the ripple effect. And that is how, like, if I get down on myself for like the feeling like, my impact is not and my reach isn't big enough, right? Like, I wish I could, how can I make it bigger? What do I need to do? Um, what can I create to make it bigger? But if I stop and think about it, that ripple effect, I don't need to see it. It's out there with every person I send back out there who is now empowered and can stand stronger and bounce back quicker and faster, because it's not, if you have high resilience, it's not that you don't feel the feelings. It's not that you don't have, when the stuff hits you and knocks the wind out of you, it doesn't mean that you're not impacted by it. It just means you don't get stuck there.
Right.
Right. You move
Absolutely.
through it quicker,
Yeah.
like it's your job
Yeah.
because you want to get back to happy.
So
Um,
I'm going to ask you a question. Is that okay?
sure.
Because
Absolutely.
I would love to learn from you. We're just getting to know each other. I just absolutely love what you offer. And by the way, just, that you have people that are impacted by you that you'll never know through this podcast, through this venue. That's the cool thing. That's the really cool thing. So, do you have a tool or a tip that you use, a technique, tool tip technique? Let me say that 3 times.
Yeah, it's absolutely not as simple as having one tip or technique. But really, there's four things that you can utilize to grow your resilience and mindfulness. Being the power of now is a big one, right? Learning how to love who exactly you are right now is a big one. It doesn't mean you don't aspire to do all the things, change things about yourself, but it's and really to get to that place, you really have to love who you are now. You
And
have to
honor
honor
that
yourself, and you
you
have to
are.
see yourself as worthy now of
Yes.
that thing here,
Yeah.
right? Or you're never going to get there. And then your sacred community social circle. We all have our people, right? And the smaller the better, really. It's not like a huge circus tent full of people that are rooting you on. It's those people you know in your life that you can turn to, and you can be your most vulnerable and speak all your shit, right? When you're having those days or that time in your life where they go, let me remind you of all the great things about you. This is just a thing that is happening. This is not who you are. Define those people, find them, keep them close, honor them. Don't just go to them when you need them most. Keep them in your life on a regular basis, because I can guarantee you they feed that without you even having to be going through crap, right? And just an example of that, like when you are out and about in the grocery store or something, you know the people, who those people are and who those people aren't. Because you
Yeah.
come, it could be the briefest of encounter. And when they walk away, there's two things that can happen. One is, oh my God, my whole aura is tingly again because that person has that thing that just feeds right into me and makes me happy, even just a brief hello. And then there are those people where you exchange 3 words and they walk away and you're like, ugh. Right? Like for no reason now you're going to question everything about your life today.
Yes.
Avoid those people. Do
Exactly.
not seek them out. Do not bring them into your home, into your
Right.
life don't invite them to things.
Exactly.
Those are my tips.
That is a good tip, Dawn. That's
Yeah.
a very important tip. Yeah, I love that. You talked about mindfulness, and interestingly enough, I do a monthly, we call it a healthy hangout Zoom. And it's really just, it's a community of people, certainly it's some of my clients and other coaches that I work with, but it's really for everyone who is health minded and who just wants more for their life and is looking for more and looking for community. And this is such a great example of that, because you just touched upon two things that I absolutely love and talk about all the time. One is that community, right? We have to seek it out. Listen, sometimes we are in a situation, maybe it's where we work, maybe it's sometimes even our marriage, or our extended family, that is it, those are the well drainers, I'm going to call them, right? They're the well drainers. And so we have to seek out the well fillers. And that community is so important. So yes, to, in your own life, those friends, those family members, whoever they are, to be the well filler for you, and vice versa. You're going to do the same thing for them. Is so key. But then even beyond that, right? To, like, for example, this Dawn right now is a well filler for me.
Right. Me too.
Absolutely a well filler. So we happen to connect, and we're, I think both of us are well fillers. I know we both are. And so we seek that out. So this community is a great example of that. Very supportive, non-judgmental, real, not Pollyannish at all. This is real stuff. But rather than staying in the mud, we seek to create change together and support each other through that. So community is one of them, and then the other is the mindfulness piece. And it's interesting because the last healthy hangout I did was specifically on mindfulness and being present. I'm reading a book right now called The Monk's Guide to Happiness.
Ooh.
And he talks about meditation, but what he does, what I love the most, is he talks about how to bring meditation, which is truly mindfulness in his description of it, into the everyday. So he talked about how when you're driving and you're in a traffic jam, right? Our tendency in that moment is, wasting time. I got to get there. I wish I had gone a different way, right? We tend to get tensed up in that moment. What he talked about was turning that around and using that as a gift. This is your bonus for the day. This is an opportunity for you to now become very present. Now, we're not doing meditation in the car where we're, the kind of meditation where you close your eyes and you're, all of that. No, what you're doing is you're using that opportunity to become fully aware of what is around you, noticing the breath in, the breath out, just paying attention to the sounds that you're hearing outside or on the radio, what it is that you're seeing. And when you look at those opportunities that we don't have control over, we don't have control over traffic jams necessarily. We can use that instead of feeling out of control, we take that control back. We empower ourselves and we use as an opportunity for growth in our own day. So, anyway, I thought that I wanted to share that.
Absolutely.
That was
No,
the
and it's
great book.
100%, 100%. When my second husband died, I spent an awful lot of time in my head. It happened very quickly. It was 8 weeks from diagnosis to death. So my processing, like I didn't have a lot of processing before he was gone. So, and about 2 years after he died, I was like, I have spent so much time in my head. I need to get back into my body. And so I signed up for yoga teacher training in my mid 50s. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I absolutely did it not so much to teach yoga, but it was literally to connect my body again and get realigned, right? I needed to live fully in myself again, top to bottom. And I still like long checkouts at the grocery store or traffic jams or any of those things, I will completely revert right into my breathing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'll just start doing the breathing and I just really become present in the moment, like this. And maybe I haven't wrapped it as such, but it is a gift. I absolutely see it as, well, if this didn't happen to me today, when would I have taken some time to slow down? Right? So it's like, it's only going to take me 5 minutes still to get out the door of this grocery store. Why get upset about it? For 4 minutes, raise my blood pressure, right? Like it's such a simple thing when you stop and look at it. Like, really, why are we in such a hurry all the time?
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
What is happening?
Take back control. And listen, I will, we could have a whole conversation over that, why we're in a hurry, but even in terms, we are very influenced by the society around us. We just are.
Yes,
We are. And if we're not aware of it, we can become even more influenced negatively or positively. But I think part of it is we are in that society. We are in that rush, rush, rush society. So naturally, we start to follow along with that. We gotta get going, right? But when you can stop and you can pay attention, and one of the things I'll share this with you if I can, because
hmm
this was something that I had learned and I thought this was a great technique. When your body gives you the signals when it's time to stop and take a beat. Your body actually has those physical sensations. It could be, your heart rate racing, or it could be that tightening of your stomach, or the lump in your throat, or the shoulders getting tight. That is your signal to take a beat. Because if you don't take a beat, what's going to end up probably happening is, oh, I can't believe I'm waiting this long. I got to get out of the grocery store. I got to get home. I got to right. And that's going to keep going on in that cycle in your brain. But when you take a beat and you take a breath, that does absolutely take you out of that reactive mode into your responsive mode. It changes the rest of your day.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I'm always like with my husband, I'm always like, so you're really choosing to be this miserable right now? Like this is really how you want your day to go? And
And he's thinking, I want some sympathy.
no, but he's actually really good because because I'm not doing it in a really judgy, like snotty way. It really is just a conversational tone. Like, you really want to wrap yourself around that right now? He bounces right out of it.
That's
He,
awesome.
he like recognizes it.
Yep.
He is in most ways, he's more yogi than I will ever be. Like the man just oozes kindness.
Mm.
But yeah, and the thing about being able to choose how we react to things is everything.
Mm.
Everything. Because if I can equate it back to what you do as far as a health coach is like, if we're already like writing off the day and everything sucks, it's a lot easier to talk ourselves into, and while I'm on my way out the door, I'm going to grab this candy bar, these cookies, and this stupid sugary drink
Yep.
because everything sucks already.
Right.
But
Right.
when you take the breath and you take your power back, you're like, it's just a minute.
Yeah.
My water's in the
And by
car.
the way, Dawn, here's the thing. When you go grab that sugary drink and that sugary snack, you're not treating yourself. Truly, I believe this. You are punishing yourself.
Absolutely. Because you always
And
feel crappy afterwards.
so, by saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna, you know, forget this day. I'm gonna grab a Snickers bar." What you're saying to yourself is, "I am not worthy of better health. I am not worthy of feeling good. I am not worthy." And so you're going down that rabbit hole. And I say that without any judgment because I have been there
Of
so many
course.
times,
Of
right?
course.
I get it. But when I do take that breath and I say, okay, what is it that I really want for myself? What is really going to serve me here in this moment? That's when things get better.
Absolutely. And there are times where I look at that candy bar and I go, if I make that choice, I have to be all in. Like I can't be I need to fully enjoy it,
Yeah.
really eat it slowly so I can taste the whole thing. And afterwards, I am not
No
allowed to.
guilt.
Right,
No guilt.
right,
Yep. I love that, Dawn. That's
right.
intentionality. That's being in your present. That's being mindful. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And not choosing to do that every day. So this is why I was looking forward to this conversation so much, because although we work in different realms, we still come from the same the same roots about, right? The same roots really run through how we do the work that we do. Um, and so it's always fun for me, especially when somebody is truly in the job for the right reason, not because it seems like something that they could do and make money from,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely. Money comes from when you live in your purpose. I believe that.
yes,
Yeah. You're taken care of when you're where you should be.
right, right. And I don't let's just touch on this because I come up against this an awful lot in the wrong way and the wrong outcome. But how do you feel about like other coaches, health coaches, whatever, and competition?
Oh, well, I don't believe in competition. There is so many people that are in need. Listen, what are there 311 million Americans? And I'm just going to talk weight here for a minute. Now, I'm not a weight loss coach, okay? Certainly weight is something I can address, but let's just talk weight for a minute. 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. And of the 30% that are at a healthy weight, only 5% are optimally healthy, right? And I want to focus on helping people to create their best health. So there is so much need out there, and I, number one, don't have the capacity to help everybody. And number two, I'm not the right person for everybody.
Right,
Right. And
right.
and there's different, oh gosh, there's so many different tools in the toolbox. And sometimes we need a hammer and sometimes we need a screwdriver and sometimes we need a whole different carpenter. So you just no, I don't believe in competition, just to answer.
Great. Yeah, no, me either. And look at this. Speak about body talking to you. This is because I briefly talked about my late husband.
Mm, mm.
Just briefly. Happens every time. I'm looking forward to the day where I can have a absolute whole conversation about him and not have my entire body get set on fire.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I feel the same way. Like I don't believe in competition. I believe that people are going to be drawn to me because they relate to me. They'll be drawn to you because they relate to you. And if we truly want people to be empowered and to reach their best self or health or whatever, that's what we want. We want them to find their people. And if it's not me, I would be happy to refer them to someone else. Like, oh, you know what? I don't think I'm your person. And let
Right.
me find you your person, because it doesn't matter to me who helps you get to your place. I want you to get to your place. Life is short.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is short.
Yeah.
We all deserve to be
Absolutely.
happy.
100%. And listen, again, I don't have that. I have an abundance mentality about most things in life anyways. So again, there's just 100% with you, Dawn. And I will say that to somebody. I will say, gosh, I'm not sure that I'm the right fit here. And can I make a suggestion of who I'd love to help refer you to the right person, because it's got to be the right fit for both, right? It's got to be the
Right.
right fit for both of us. So
Right. And I think abundance, that mindset, I think that's very much in the wheelhouse of resilience as well. Right. I think that absolutely, thinking that there's enough for all of us, that there's enough happiness out there. Say you're a single person wanting to be coupled, believing that the right person is out there and waiting,
yeah.
right? Looking, you can still be looking,
Yeah, you
but
actually have to get in the car for it to drive, but yes,
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 right?
but
But
knowing yes, it's the knowing, it's the confidence in that,
right.
and abundance. Yeah, I love that word, abundance.
Yes. Yeah, it's a juicy word, right?
Mhm.
It has it has the warm feelings in it. So, is there anything else that you would like to leave our audience with as a closer?
Well, first of all, again, I want to thank you for inviting me to be on here today. This was such a treat, and I loved every moment of it. I would just welcome anyone who would like to reach out to me. By all means, feel free to. And I mentioned earlier that I host a monthly Healthy Hangout Zoom. And our next one is actually going to be on Tax Day, April 15th. We hold them monthly. So if you're hearing this April 15th, don't worry about it. You can follow up with me and we'll invite you to the next one. But there's no cost to attend. It's a great community and you're more than welcome to join.
Awesome. So, I'd like to say that when this if you're watching this, that means I've released it and I've shared it everywhere, and there should be all of Julie's links. If for some reason you lose the links, but you remember she talked to me, come find me. I will hook you up. And I'm going to remember my ask for me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you won't miss an episode. And the audio gets loaded up onto my podcast, Bounce Back and Bloom. If you want to take it with you running in the car, when you're walking the dog, subscribe there too, please. Every little bit helps me. Thank you.
And it helps us, Dawn,
Yes.
helps us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being open. This was a very last minute add into your schedule. Thank you for accommodating it. I really enjoyed it. I loved getting to know you better, and I'll probably reach out and bother you again just to have a you and me chat on Zoom.
Love it. Anytime. Thank
All
you.
righty. Thank you. Enjoy your day. See you next time, people. See you next week.